Hey, what's up, everybody? I just wanted to do kind of a special video here going over Tesla, American exceptionalism, and climate change. And so I feel like that's kind of summarized in this image that I have behind me, which I did produce using Grok. You can't see it because it is behind me, but there's the little Grok logo there. Yeah, so just kind of summarizing this image. We've got the Tesla Cybertruck there on the moon. I think that there's a lot of promising stuff going on with Tesla moving forward into the future. And then also just, a throwback to times in America when we were really doing exceptional things. We were coming together and, we were excited about what was going on. Here we have the moon lander and the American flag on the moon. There's quite the possibility that we will see Americans, global world citizens, back on the moon, potentially going to Mars in the not so distant future. You and I, those who are alive today, may get to see that. I suspect we will, so I'm pretty excited about that. And also, we did just have a recent moon mission, Artemis 1, that was kind of a test flight, sending the Boeing Starliner, I believe, to orbit the moon and then come back. But one of the things, and I actually, I'll check the chat at the end. But I'm just going to focus on this the stream for now. I'll check the chat once it's over. I don't want to be distracted, get derailed. But thinking about the Starliner and how it went to orbit the moon when it came back, there were issues with the plates on it, the shield for re-entering Earth's atmosphere that were put under question. And it looks like Artemis 2 might be delayed as a result of that. And then because of further issues with the Boeing Starliner, as we know, Sunny, and I forget the other person's name, I believe it's Sunny, two astronauts were left on the space station for months when it was just supposed to be like a week visit. And the reason why they were left there is because there were concerns with the Boeing Starliner. And then just recently, SpaceX came to the rescue. That, of course, not being Tesla, but that being one of Elon's companies. I think that there's just so much to be excited about. I think that the things that Elon brings to the country, to the world, are great. We may have some disagreements with how he handles things. We may disagree with some of the politics. But I just think that what is going on here, we are back into an era where, we're going to potentially be seeing a moon landing. And that's not because of Boeing or these conventional businesses that have had contracts with NASA or other government agencies. It's because of SpaceX and because of, what Elon has built along with his teams, of course, behind him. And then speaking of behind us in this image, we have, what is the Earth back there, kind of referring to that climate change, that, this is our home. And so we need to be considering that. Let's see. I'm just going to be clicking through tabs moving forward with this. I have to say thanks to all of you who voted here, asking, should I stream Friday after close to talk about Tesla and share some stories? Got a majority saying yes, and those who don't care. To be honest, I don't care. I'm just happy that some people want to hear my perspective on this. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to share it. And I should note that this is not going to be a typical video for me. I'm really just going to be sharing kind of my perspective on Tesla, where it's at now, relating it to some other companies, and then just kind of sharing some stories from my life that really relate to Tesla, as well as, I'm going to go back to this image here, the topic of climate change. And so, in referring to this image here, so my background, as I'm sure some of you know, is in earth science. I have a PhD in marine and atmospheric chemistry. And so that's kind of where I wanted to approach this climate change thing from, not from an agenda perspective, but from a reality perspective. And I have to say, I did leave that career path because I just didn't feel like it was that promising of a future for myself. And I just think that it was, kind of a dark place. Whereas Tesla and envisioning, a brighter future, I think that's a much better way to kind of envision. Climate change and progress that we're making in addressing it. And I also wanted to note that, on American exceptionalism, I'm putting this video together as an American. I have to say that I'm a proud American. And that history goes back to after high school. I joined AmeriCorps, did a couple of years of service there, working in the southeast region of the U.S., working with various nonprofits in communities in need, tutoring kids, working at state parks. And then my second year, I lived in San Antonio, Texas, doing Habitat for Humanity. And I have great pride for that service that I did. It's definitely not military service, but I must say that, I'm a very proud American. And following that service, I went to school in Boulder, Colorado. Would not have been able to get into school or to fund my education without federal, state, and local, not fellowships, but I forget what they're called when you get a fellow, not a fellowship, but whatever undergrads get to pay for school. So I wanted to have been able to do it with that. And then also in grad school, I ended up getting awarded the National Science Fellowship, National Science Foundation Fellowship, Graduate Research Fellowship for my research. And also that same year, I was awarded a Department of Energy Fellowship, but I actually had to decline that one because I could only accept one. And so, with all that being said, I think there's a little bit of government waste in there, but, all of it, I couldn't have done the things that I've done in my life without the country. And so I just have to say I'm a really, really proud American and, happy to be sharing this with you guys, my perspective. Hopefully it's bright for you. But following that kind of lengthy intro, I'm just going to start how I normally do my videos. So, hey, what's up? Welcome to Degen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at stocks, or in this case, sharing some stories, my perspective on some stocks. And so, this is all really just kind of based on this video over here. I'm sure some of you guys have seen it if you're interested in Luminar and or Tesla. I'm sure it was put on your radar, not LiDAR, but radar. And so this video put out by Mark Rober, I hadn't heard of him. I didn't follow his channel. I don't follow his channel. And this was a video that came out 6 days ago. It's had over 16 million views, and the video is entitled, "Can You Fool a Self-Driving Car?" And there are a couple things about this that I have issues with. One is that he says self-driving car. However, in the video, he talks about autopilot, which personally, I'm not a Tesla car owner. But my understanding of Tesla and their autopilot versus full self-driving technology is that autopilot was kind of like an early stage version of self-driving, and full self-driving, FSD, is the best you can get for autopilot, self-driving, I should say, self-driving, not autopilot. And so in this video, Mark used autopilot for it. He didn't use FSD. And also, I wasn't aware of this, but following up on it and seeing what people were posting about it on X, various other places, this mistake just ruined Mark Rober's image. And so this image in that thumbnail, you see it circled there, is that autopilot was not engaged when he crashed and hit the wall when he was doing these experiments. So I just feel like it was a very unfair comparison. And I felt like it was an attack on Tesla at a time when Tesla does not need that. And I just felt like it was a really low blow. And it was also in partnership. I don't think Luminar sponsored that video, but they were definitely prominently featured in it. And I believe they did. Maybe they sponsored it, but they didn't. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly of the legal nature of that. But it just rubbed me the wrong way because Tesla is the leading innovator in this space. And to then participate in a video that throws them under the bus, I just found that to be very distasteful. Although, I have to give Luminar some credit because it wasn't their video, it was Mark's video. But if we do look at the stock chart over here of Luminar, which is ticker symbol LAZR, had a pretty exciting week. The past 5 days with these candles here, if you're not used to looking at stocks, we saw this gap up into trading for this week. Each candle represents 1 day, and it did go higher over the course of the week. It had an excellent week. And I had talked about the possibility of it coming down to this yellow line here around $6 a share, as the data suggested that would likely happen. Although, we saw it close above $8 today, so I think that's great. Good for the company. And I have to say, I am a shareholder, but this put a really bad taste in my mouth because this gap up was not based on fundamentals coming out around their earnings. It was based on Luminar being featured in a video that unfairly bashed Tesla. And from what I understand, it's possible there might be some legal ramifications, not for Luminar, but for Mark Rober. And if that does happen, that's going to look really bad for Luminar. And so, this just put a really, really bad taste in my mouth, I have to say. And to be honest, I have been thinking about trimming my positions, consolidating my portfolio. And I think at some point, not today, I did sell two covered calls that expired today at a strike of $8 a share. And so I would have had to get out of my position at $8 a share, but instead I rolled them to next week. Next week's max pain is again $6 a share. So I suspect we might see a pump at the beginning of the week next week, but I think that we will see a pullback in Luminar. So, I'm not out of my position here, but I do want to get out of my position, and I want to put that cash, especially that cash that I'm raising from selling covered calls, into Tesla, in all honesty. And we've just seen, Tesla get beat down, following this rally up here, following the election. Saw this big rally and now this pullback. And so I just feel like Tesla's at a really big discount, and especially because of other things that are going on in the news. But, I didn't necessarily want to get to that just yet. I did want to come back to Luminar and thinking about, why I kind of want to roll some of my funds, whether that's in Luminar or ChargePoint or other stocks. I kind of want to roll them into Tesla because let's see. Luminar has been going down for quite some time. They just had a reverse split recently, a 1-for-15 reverse split. And, it's quite possible this company could go bankrupt. It's a competitive market, and, so that's always a possibility. I think Tesla's proved itself. I have a lot of confidence that they will continue to prevail. And if I believe in the EV future, if I believe in the autonomous future, why not put my money in a company that I really believe in that's led by, the leading innovator in the space? And just thinking about a company like Luminar or also, like ChargePoint, both of them, being at all-time lows. ChargePoint's a charging station company. I wanted to come back to the tabs over here. I guess, this was supposed to be my intro to talking about Luminar, but I wanted to, this is some of their technology, so you see the 3D nature of visualizing the surroundings rather than just stagnant images, which, Tesla doesn't really think is that necessary. Elon does not think it's that necessary. And while, I think that this does give a better view of the surroundings and also to be complementary to cameras, which are based on vision, whereas Luminar is based on LiDAR, which is like radar, but it's using light rather than, I'm not an expert on that. But something that I've been thinking about is, I happen to work at a factory, and sometimes when things are being developed in the factory, I'm not an engineer, I work in a lab, I do testing there. Sometimes things come up when, we want to engineer out problems, we want to engineer out issues. But sometimes when we do that engineering, sometimes we over-engineer things. And there's this one belt at work. conveyor belt that, it just needs wheels to spin on either side to get this conveyor going. But this conveyor belt actually has teeth on it. And with those teeth, I think they've resolved the issue now, but we had previously had little skips in that conveyor belt because the teeth would get misaligned. And that's an example of over-engineering. And so I'm wondering, maybe Luminar, maybe this technology is over-engineering. Well, it's great. We do get this nice visualization, this 3D map of the surroundings, whether that's pedestrians, buildings, cars. It really just paints this really nice picture. But with a number of cameras, the AI that's behind those cameras, and how that technology continues to evolve, it's implemented throughout the world, maybe this is an example of over-engineering. Also, all of the data behind it. And so I'm starting to question this a little bit. And, what I was saying about these stocks coming down, whether it's ChargePoint or Luminar, it's quite possible that they could be going under. And an example of that is going to be Fisker, which is or was a publicly traded EV company, previously traded under the ticker FSR, but now it's NQ. I could not pull it up on Webull. And this stock, I used to cover it, but it went down to zero effectively. And it's possible that ChargePoint could do that. It's possible that Luminar could do that. But like I said, I feel like it's very unlikely that that will be happening with Tesla. So, I just have a lot of confidence in this company. I have a lot of confidence in Elon and his vision. And so with that being said, I kind of want to take a step back in time to share some stories from my life in my experience with getting to know, I guess, Elon, Tesla, in the EV space. And so thinking about this, this is a movie that came out in 2006, Who Killed the Electric Car? And so I don't know if you guys have seen this movie. I would highly recommend it, whether you're interested in Tesla, if you're interested in Rivian, Luminar, ChargePoint, any of these EV-related companies. I'd encourage watching this documentary. And so it was about General Motors had this electric vehicle, EV1. You can see it there. And, it's just the title, Who Killed the Electric Car? And it's just this great documentary about how this car was really starting to blow up. I think, I believe at the time, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger of California, maybe he wasn't governor then, maybe it was other celebrities were getting behind this. They were just really excited about it. But then eventually it got canned. And the reason for that, if my memory serves me correctly, you can check out the Wikipedia page. I'd encourage checking out the video, the documentary. It was basically posing a threat to the oil industry that GM, which relied on that with their internal combustion energy vehicles, by creating an electric vehicle, they were going to disrupt that. And they did not want to do that. And so that made me think that, while I'm really excited, I'm really inspired by electric vehicles, I just don't think it's really that feasible. And then taking another step back in time, but this being a little bit more recent, in 2022, I went to the Peterson Museum in Los Angeles, and they had this amazing display, a floor dedicated to Tesla. And they had, I believe, a floor or a large portion of a floor dedicated to electric vehicles. And this red vehicle that you see here is the mass-produced electric 1996 General Motors EV1. So it was super cool to see this vehicle there because I had learned so much about it from that documentary and seeing how Tesla had grown from something that I thought would get canned or canceled because of the disruption to the internal combustion energy industry. And I did not have faith in Elon at the time. And so this is a throwback image to a place that I love so much. This is assuming the photo is correct, this is from Pearl Street in Boulder, Colorado. That's where I got my undergraduate degree. I believe I lived there from 2006 to 2012. And I remember, this is on the west side of Pearl Street, I lived down there, and there was a Tesla showroom. They had the Tesla Roadster, and I believe it was around 2009, through the awards I was getting, through the work that I was doing, I had a little bit of extra cash. And I thought, it was around 2009 after the stock market crashed. I thought, hey, I should put some money in the market because I'm intrigued by that. I think I could turn this into a little bit of money. I'm just interested in it. The market just crashed, so I think there's an opportunity there. And one of the stocks that I considered investing in was Tesla. I saw this showroom. I was compelled by Elon. But then, I was always thinking about in the back of my head, who killed the electric car? This Elon guy, he thinks he's going to be able to disrupt this industry, but there's no chance in hell that he's going to be able to succeed. And so I, considered the stock, kind of laughed at it, even though, I was going to school for geology. I think I switched majors to chemistry, also doing atmospheric and oceanic science and geology as a minor. And I was, compelled by the movement, but I just didn't think it was going to go anywhere. I thought he was crazy. And so I decided to not invest in Tesla. I invested in Citigroup, made a little bit of money with it, but I didn't care, There was nothing passionate about it. There was no passion in it. It was just to explore the stock market. And, this is maybe one of the biggest regrets of my lifetime was not learning more about Elon than not investing in a company for the long term that I believed in, that was supported by my career trajectory at the time of pursuing earth science and studying the ocean, which is a moderator of climate. And so, yeah, I just, this just, in all honesty, makes me regret a little bit about that. And then kind of taking a step forward to more recent history. This next image is a little alarming. But, at the start of this year, at the start of 2025, the Los Angeles wildfires making headlines. Here we have a heroic firefighter pulling the fire hose there with a house on fire. And, this was a moment for me that was really disruptive for me, I would say emotionally, personally, because, I had pursued the career path of climate science, understanding climate change, but really just kind of understanding how the climate system works in the context of the ocean and ocean overturning circulation. That occurs on a 1,000-year time scale. It moderates climate because of that. And so thinking about these forest fires, climate change definitely plays a role in this, of course, hands down. But was it to blame? I would argue no. And one of the things, I don't have it up here, but it was shared with me. I also saw it on X. It was a Bernie Sanders tweet where he used these fires to talk about climate change and how it's this existential crisis. We need to address it. And I think that, in a situation like this, we need to put all of that aside and we just need to come together, work together to solve these problems. And you can argue that that happened on both sides of the aisle. So, I don't want to get into that. But I just don't think this was an opportunity to say climate change is real. Because I think those people were really just using this to push their climate change agenda. Because, you talk to any San Angelinos, they're aware of the Santa Ana winds, which these are occasionally referred to as the devil winds, and you're probably not too surprised why that is. These are strong winds that come down from the mountains. They're extremely dry katabatic winds. I'll jump into what those are in just a second. I've got some very interesting stories about them. And they originate inland and affect coastal Southern California and northern Baja California. And so those are the winds that they were experiencing. They don't happen all of the time, but sometimes they do happen. And from what I understand of the weather that was occurring at the beginning of the year in Southern California, is they were expecting these winds. And this is a phenomenon that does happen. And so in order to prevent devastation from climate change or really in this case, weather events, we need to be better prepared for climate change. We need to be building up our resiliency. And that means shoring up our water reserves, which I'll get to in just a second. I just wanted to point out katabatic winds here really quick because I have a very quick story about that. That's kind of a tangent, but this comes to my experience from studying the Earth. And so katabatic winds, this is a downslope wind caused by the flow of an elevated high-dense air mass into a low-dense air mass below under the force of gravity. And so you can just think about this effectively as there's a pressure gradient that there's, high up in the mountains or on a continent, you got this high pressure, and then closer to sea level, you have a low pressure. And so just like rolling down a hill, the parcels of air are going to flow down. And that's going to create a very intense wind. And so that's what we see here, or saw here in Southern California, but also did want to point out that these do occur in Antarctica, and I've actually experienced them in Antarctica. I've been down there twice doing field work as an oceanographer, no longer my career, but you see in this little schematic here that, this is snow, the continent of Antarctica, the ice sheet there, high elevation. And so in this context, it's cold air, but in California, it could be dry, warm air, no difference. But really, it's just that there's this pressure gradient and gravity pulling this wind down. So you just get very, very intense winds around Antarctica. That pushes sea ice away. You get these little polynyas, open water, phytoplankton, productivity, life, an amazing thing. But it's an incredible thing to experience because it's so bitter cold. Anyways, that's just a little bit of personal experience on that. But coming back to the Santa Ana winds, we were aware that these winds were happening. We're always aware that water is an issue in Southern California. And so I think it's really important that considering this, we need to be shoring up our water storage, our water supplies. And I'm sure we all saw a number of images of empty reservoirs around LA, Southern California. And I believe, I'm not exactly sure, this is the Los Angeles River, but I believe there's a bike path over here. I don't know if you can tell. I believe, I might be wrong, I've ridden along this bike path. I think gone over this bridge, I'm not sure. I believe there are some horses over here. I'm not really sure. But this is definitely very flooded. You can see a little tree there in the middle of it, trees here. So usually there's not too much water flowing through this. And I'm not sure when this image was taken. It was, I think, a couple years ago. But, the strategy in Southern California, and I may be mistaken about this, but is that, there's not that much water there, but occasionally they get tons of water and they need to manage that. And their strategy is to funnel it into these concrete rivers and push it out to the ocean, when there could be better infrastructure for storing that water. There could be better infrastructure around fire hydrants so that they are well supplied with water regardless of the elevation. Houses that live up on the hills here, they're going to need some more water pressure to fight fires versus the houses that are down here. And so I just think that was a complete failure of climate change mitigation, resilience, management, and not a factor. It was not to blame on climate change. We're aware that climate is changing, and humans have expedited that change due to the release of fossil fuels into the atmosphere. But at the same time, these changes are happening slowly, and through innovation, we are able to manage them, not through government, but through private sector innovation like Tesla and the other companies that Elon Musk has led. And so it's a personal story. But yeah, so I think that's kind of all I wanted to say about this. But yeah, we just need to do a better job at managing um, our water, managing and mitigating and just being resilient in the face of climate change. And so this is a photo of me here with some friends. This is in Vancouver, British Columbia. If you have not been, it's an amazing, beautiful place. This is Kitsilano Beach. And this was during 2020. So we'd meet in the park to, have beers and food together. And I just have so many memories of this place. And one of them, I was actually chatting with one of the people who's in the photo here. And I remember back in 2020, I started to get more into the stock market, started to get back into it. And I was and always have been very interested in Elon Musk, whether it's electric vehicles or whether it's SpaceX and going to Mars. Read the book in grad school by Robert Zubrin, who is, I don't know if he's necessarily anti-Musk, but very, not happy with a lot of stuff going on with Trump and Musk. But I think that some things he does support. It's not an all or nothing world that we live in. It's some things are good, some things are bad. Anyways, Robert Zubrin wrote this book called The Case for Mars. He's also written a book called The Case for Nuclear and The Case for Space. I have not read those, but I did read The Case for Mars, and it really just breaks down the argument for us to go to Mars. And Elon's pushing in that direction, and also with his work with electric vehicles. But anyways, these people that I'm enjoying my time with, I'm coming from the perspective of studying the ocean. All these other people, they study fisheries related to the ocean, of course. And one of them I was chatting with about Elon Musk, about electric vehicles, and this person had just gotten I don't know if it was I think it was used, but in good condition, new for this person, internal combustion engine vehicle. And I found that to be kind of surprising because, why not take advantage of the opportunity to get an electric vehicle? And we debated about it a little bit, and their argument was, well, with electric vehicles, we're mining all of this lithium, and it's bad for the environment. And, I feel like that's such a bad argument because it's like, whether it's coal, natural gas, oil, gasoline, diesel powering our vehicles, that is all coming from the earth. We are mining for it. We're drilling it, and that's not good. But it's all stuff that through utilizing it, through taking advantage of those energy resources, we're emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. So that's not a good thing. We're changing the chemistry of the atmosphere. And the pathway forward is not by shutting that stuff off and going full on green renewable energy. The path forward is diversification. We need to be exploring all of these options and knowing that none of them are going to be perfect. Wind, there might be some environmental concerns. There are also going to be days when it's too gusty or not windy enough to get that energy. Solar, there are going to be cloudy days. There's going to be snow that falls on those solar panels. They're not going to be able to work every single day. But through energy diversification, we can achieve that. And so I think that, this kind of, the academic mindset, I feel like was too focused on we need to do this one thing because it's pure. When the reality is, no matter what we do, no matter what energy pathway we go down, there are going to be some pitfalls. And so with electric vehicles, mining lithium is not so great. And so that's definitely, something that should be considered. But through innovation, through driving that technology forward, those batteries will get more efficient, will get better at mining, will be mining in more environmentally friendly ways. And so I just thought that was a very bad take on Tesla, on electric vehicles, and stuff like that. And let's see. I wanted to come back to the chart here for just a second. This is ringing a bell for me about something I forgot to mention, but really just talking about Tesla stock and also ChargePoint stock. And so I do hold a very small position in Tesla, as well as one of these ETFs that offer some leveraged exposure to Tesla. And so I'll go over those in just a second. But, I was always kind of discouraged from buying Tesla because it's, hundreds of dollars per share. And that, for me, is just too expensive to be able to buy, a number of shares of. And so, it's like, but I believe in the electric vehicle agenda, the trajectory. I believe in the technology. And so what are other ways that I could get exposure to it? And so one of those ways was to invest in ChargePoint. And so I did that a while ago. I'm red in my position. But, with what's been going on, since 2025 so far, has kind of made me realize in other positions that I've had that have gone to zero, like Fisker, maybe ChargePoint does the same thing. And so if I believe in the renewable energy future, or at least the diversification of our energy resources in the future, we're going to need a charging infrastructure. We're going to need electric vehicles. And so why invest in one that may go to zero? As you can see, it's trending that direction, when I could just invest in the leader of the space. And so what I think I'm going to be doing, I've started it today, is I'm going to be trimming out of my ChargePoint position as well as my Luminar position to then gradually move those funds into Tesla, because I believe in this long term. And while it is hundreds of dollars per share, they've had splits in the past. And so what we're seeing now, this could be $25 a share a year or two from now, following a split. And then I'd have 10 shares versus one if there was a 1-for-10 reverse split. And so I just find that to be more compelling, a better way to invest. And so that's kind of, going to be my strategy moving forward. So I wanted to share that with you guys a little bit. But, of course, as always, I'm not a big fish, so my positions are small. But one thing, that I kind of wanted to think about with Tesla is that, I believe in this long term. The shares that I buy, I don't want to sell. Is there a way that I could trade it? Yeah, but then I'd be like risking selling more shares that I'm holding, or that I want to sell, and it goes higher and then I get left behind. And so a nice way to trade Tesla, I do hold some TSLL. This is 2x leverage Tesla exposure, and it's only $9 a share. And so I do have some of this. It might be going lower, but this, I'll take a 20% profit on it, something like that. If I think, we're getting to a top like we were over here above, above 400, nearly $500 a share for Tesla, then I might try to get some short exposure. And so I would not be buying TSLL, which is 2x long exposure. I might get TSLS, which is not leveraged short Tesla. And so going back to, let's see, Tesla, the highs over here, that was in the middle of December. Tesla short, we have the middle of December over here. That was when it was at $6-7, and now it's nearly doubled. Another way to get some exposure to Tesla when it goes to the downside is TSLQ, which is 2x short Tesla. And so going back to the middle of December, it was around $20 a share. Now it's over 50. So I just think that these ETFs are a very nice way to trade Tesla, whether to the upside or, the downside, while at the same time accumulating Tesla stock. And so that's kind of how I feel about that. And so I'm probably going to be shifting out of my ChargePoint over time and out of my Luminar over time. And again, I did sell covered calls that expired today with a strike of $8 a share, but I did roll them into next week, $8 strike. Max pain is 6, so I suspect while we might see a continuation higher next week, I do think that we will start to get a pullback. And if not, then I'll just roll them into the following week, so no big deal. But anyways, coming back to over here and talking about this kind of, mindset of lithium's bad, mining is bad, we shouldn't do it, and then so just stay in fossil fuels. I just don't think that's the right way to move forward, to innovate. And one thing, I did share this on the channel, more inspiration for you guys. If you're interested, this is an all-in podcast interview. Chamath and David Friedberg do interview Howard Lutnick, who's a part of the Trump administration. And in that, he talks about a number of things. And so he's the Secretary of Commerce, or Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. He talks about a number of things. Some of them you may not agree with. That's totally cool. Some of the things you might be surprised that you agree with them. And that's also great. Other things may be new to you. And one of the things that he talked about in this was referring to tariffs, and that companies like Tesla, they have to get their lithium ore, I believe, from countries like Australia that don't have the best environmental practices when mining lithium. But the reason why we can't mine in the U.S. is because there are too many restrictions that prevent us from doing that. Whereas if we were to mine lithium in the U.S., we would be more environmentally friendly, more environmentally responsible. Although we may have to surrender some of our land to that mining, we would be doing it in a more responsible way, whether that's countries like Australia, China, whatever country. That is being responsible stewards. And I think that we need to do that. And so he brings up a really good point in that. And also, I have to say, not to go down any like personal rabbit holes or anything, but he also, I was not aware of this until of his confirmation hearing. But he lost his brother and a number of friends on September 11th in 2001. And so personally, I did not lose anybody in that. I remember it happening when I was in school. But a few months before that, I lost somebody in my life very dear to me. And so I have found, I used to think that I wasn't a very empathetic person, because when stuff like that would come up, I would shut off and I would not really engage. But what I realized is the reason why I do that is because I have to, in order to keep going, and that I feel people's pain. I'm actually a very empathetic person. And I find that Howard Lutnick, I was not intrigued by him initially, but I just feel like, nobody's a 100% good or 100% bad person. I think it's all about intention. I think that he has good intention. And stories that he shared about his brother, family, and friends. If any of you have lost somebody in your life, I think that there's something to identify with that. So anyways, I think it's a really nice interview. It's an hour and 44 minutes long. I would encourage you to check it out. But anyways, kind of this rambles that I've been going on, we're kind of at this crossroads in my view. And so the arrow to the left is pointing out a problem, and the arrow to the right is pointing out a solution, which is kind of a coincidence, but I did choose this because of that orientation. And so my perspective, having gone through the higher education process and getting a PhD in marine and atmospheric chemistry, doing research at universities, I had found that the left focused more on problems. That there's a problem, we do not understand this about the ocean, or there's a problem with us emitting CO2 that's causing warming. We're going to study those problems. But that energy, that effort, does not go into solutions. It just identifies problems. It better identifies, understands those problems. Whereas people like Elon, companies like Tesla, they focus on solutions. And this is one thing that, I meant to have to mention it at the beginning, so I'm just going to go back to this tab here, talking about solutions. I would very much encourage you to check out this video. I shared it on the channel. So inspiring. Tesla all hands meeting from yesterday. It's an hour long, and Elon just talks about his vision for Tesla for the future, and not just specifically Tesla, but other companies and the innovation that's happening in the world today. And I just find it to be so uplifting. And, while everybody, the left, over here, hates Elon right now to the point of burning electric vehicles, attacking Tesla dealerships and showrooms, vandalizing people's electric vehicles. That's coming from people who talk about the problem of climate change, which is really pushing the agenda of climate change. It's a talking point that we can talk about. We talk about it, we get votes, we get money, we move forward. Whereas focusing on solutions like creating a renewable energy industry around electric vehicles, which Elon did with Tesla in this video, he talks about all of the technologies that Tesla is working on. Optimists, you may not think that is the best thing for renewable energy. That's fine. But as far as electric vehicles, as far as autonomy goes, as far as the power walls, the energy storage, the solar cells, the solar panels that Tesla develops, that's all, coming back to this left agenda of, solving these problems, finding solutions. And I definitely think that he can be misinterpreted. I definitely think that he's not a perfect person. And I can definitely understand if you do not like the Trump administration, the Doge cuts that are happening, and they're, a tough pill to swallow. I mean, in my view, that some jobs will be cut, some programs will be cut. But if that is in the long-term interest of not just America, but the American people, taxpayers, what are ways that those people can pivot into this new economy, which I think is really just driven by AI? I think the things that are happening with Doge, with autonomy, with self-driving, that is happening because of AI. And a lot of jobs, unfortunately, are going to be replaced by that, by upgrading our technologies. Those are good things. And so I would encourage trying to find the side of these problems that are so apparent that is pointing to the direction of a solution. Because if there's a problem, there's not going to be a perfect solution. There's not going to be a perfect fix. If we're mining lithium, there are going to be some problems with that. But we need to also focus on the solution. And not only is this going to the right, this is going forward. We need to be thinking about moving forward, and we need to be thinking about doing that together. As Republicans, as Democrats, as whatever party you affiliate with, we need to come together as Americans. We need to come together as citizens of the earth. And I just think that there's so much inspiration coming out of that company. And another thing that really, triggered me, and a lot of people, I'm sure you guys have seen this, is from Tim Walz, who almost became the vice president. And he posts this on X. If you need a little boost during the day, check out Tesla stock, and that it's going down. He said 225 and dropping. And Tesla's an American company. It's a part of the S&P 500. It's a part of so many people's retirement pension funds. American workers, how many thousands, I believe hundreds of thousands of Americans work at these plants. I know there's a plant in, China, in Germany. People throughout the world benefit from this company. And to cheer its downfall and to not condemn violence or domestic terrorism, I can't believe that. And it just highlights the ignorance. I mean, he discovered that there's a little stock app. Are you kidding me? He just discovered that? He's just so incompetent. I'm sorry. Having nothing to do with politics, just from this clip. I can't believe that he's rooting for the downfall of a company. And on that note, I've got to come back to the Tesla chart. And excuse me while I do this. This is a new habit that I'm doing. I'm just going to take a screenshot of that, save it to my clipboard, And I gotta come over to Tim Walz's page. And let's see, how do I do a post to him? I don't know how to do a post so from there. So I'm just going to go to my homepage, and I'm just going to do, at Tim Waltz. And actually, I'm going to rephrase this. It's a great day. It's a great day, USA. Let's see, get my emoji to pop up there. And Tesla. Oops. And then I will paste that there to troll him, because I can't believe that he did that. And I have to say, I did put that into my little bookmarks over here, just because I can't believe this guy. I can't believe that he would do that, that he would cheer on, like, have your disagreements with Elon, have your disagreements with Trump. That's fine. But an American company going down, cheering that on, that's like the most anti-American thing. Americans are hurt by that. And so, yeah, I mean, I wanted to share that little perspective there. And then I also kind of wanted to share a little bit of a personal story, coming back to this image from Luminar. And yeah, this is a personal story referring to kind of this spectrum here. And this is something, definitely personal for me. This comes back to when Elon hosted SNL. He revealed that he has Asperger's in his SNL monologue. This was back in 2021 when Dogecoin hit an all-time high. And, that's something that is very personal for me, because when I was in grad school, a very good friend who was a Tesla owner, I assume he still is, I haven't spoken to him in a while, but a great friend, he was like a brother to me in grad school. And at some point in grad school, he had mentioned, hey, I think it's possible you might have Asperger's. And it was just like chatting over beers or something, not too big of a deal. But that planted a little bit of a seed in my head. I was just always kind of wondering about that. And let's see, all throughout my life as a kid, all throughout my life as an adult, people tell me that I'm a little weird. I'm a little off. People would always tell me that I think too much, that I'm in my head, all of these things. And they'd say these things like it's a bad thing. And I kind of started to wonder, I believe because of Elon coming out and mentioning this, I started to wonder, maybe the reason why people think I'm weird, maybe the reason why people say I think too much is maybe because I have Asperger's. I don't know if I do. But I think that makes sense. Why do I love looking at charts, going over these numbers, hyper-focusing on this stuff? I'm definitely not a genius, a super genius like Elon. I'm definitely not a mini genius or anything like that. But I feel like my brain's wired a little bit differently. And this just meant a lot to me. And thinking about how Elon was recently at the White House with a fleet of Teslas, and the left was bashing Elon, Tesla, and Trump for selling a Tesla in the White House, when in the past Biden has done that with a Jeep that was electric, I believe, and also the Ford F-150 Lightning. It's definitely happened in the past, so I think it's unfair to criticize. But I was going to make a point about this. I got sidetracked there a little bit. But yeah, I got sidetracked with the White House thing. With Biden, I believe as a child he had a stutter. And I remember that he was talked about for being an inspiration for children who have stutters. And I think that's great. I think that if you have a stutter, I think that you should be able to achieve anything you put your mind to, you put your focus to in life. And, but then that makes me think, well, I feel like, I don't have a stutter, but I feel like, it's possible that I have Asperger's. And actually, someone recently told me that they use it as an excuse to someone else for my behavior, which I found to be very hurtful, that I have Asperger's. Rather than defending how I behaved or justifying it in some way, they said that, I have a syndrome. I don't know if it's a disability. And I found that to be pretty offensive. And so just thinking about this and Elon, where all of that he's accomplished in his career, his involvement in government now, for me, as somebody who's struggled with being told he's weird, he thinks too much, he's awkward, that's me. And so, yeah, I don't know. I find it to be very unfair what's going on. And all of these attacks, whether it's to Tesla, to Elon, I take very personally. And let's see. I'm just going to come back to this. I had talked about this, so inspiring. I encourage watching the Tesla All Hands meeting. And I do have this here right next to me that I want to hold up. But this is something that I like, what do you want for Christmas? I feel like, I don't know if you guys celebrate, but what do you want for Christmas? You get that asked that every year by family, whatever. What did I want for Christmas? But the one thing that I wanted for Christmas that I couldn't bring myself to ask because my family hates this guy. I just wanted to get this book because I wanted to learn more about him. Whether you agree with him, whether you disagree with him, I think we should learn more about him. I haven't started reading it. I was thinking about reading it today, starting to read it today. I started another book that I don't like as much. I should start reading that. But yeah, it's just so hurtful. After the speech following the inauguration, when Elon gave the infamous "My heart goes out to you" speech, he made a very bad hand gesture, which has been misused and used for propaganda. It was a very bad decision for him to do that. He should not have done it. But I feel like, coming back to this, he's a pretty socially awkward guy. He's not going to be, he even says in his monologue, he's an awkward, cool guy, not a cool guy or whatever he said in that. He's not going to be perfect. And he definitely screwed that up. But it was a mistake. And the intention behind it was, my heart goes out to you. I can't believe that's been used in such ways. And on that day, a family member texted me, telling me, what Elon had done, assuming the worst. And this is somebody that I admire, that inspires me. And I've always been off socially. And I don't know, my social life has been compromised in a lot of ways because of that. But also I think my academic and like my YouTube career, which is fumbling forward, has been somewhat successful because of that syndrome, potentially. And yeah, I don't know. I've found a lot of what's going on to be very personally hurtful. And I think that one thing that's good to think about with Elon, somebody that he reminds me of, a book that was also, written by Walter Isaacson, that I've read. I read through the pandemic and brought me a lot of joy. It was a book on Steve Jobs. And I don't know, this is all like kind of emotional for me because I just find these people to be so inspiring. But what's one thing that, so many people have said about Steve Jobs? It's that he was an asshole. Unfortunately, we lost him too soon. He died at 56 years old. He had cancer. He was also very unconventional, would not wear shoes, had a very strange diet. I believe he was vegan or very close to it, which possibly had to do with the cancer that he got. But maybe that's conspiracy theory. I'm not sure. I don't think he'd wear deodorant, was just kind of this smelly, like odd guy, at least when he was younger. I don't know how he changed as he got older, but from reading that book by Walter Isaacson, we lost him. But he was unconventional, he was controversial, and he was an asshole. I mean, who does that remind you of? And so I feel like, we lost Steve Jobs too soon. But what he did for the world, he changed it. We all use his products. I'm using a phone here, computer here, keyboard, not a mouse. I've got a different brand mouse. But yeah, I mean, he completely changed the world because of his vision. And it wasn't just him. It wasn't just one person. Steve Wozniak, right there, right-hand man. It wasn't just Steve Jobs. It was a team of engineers, computer scientists, working in concert with him. He was the conductor. And that's the same thing that we've got with Elon Musk right now. And he's 53 years old. And to think, Steve Jobs, when he died, was 56 years old. Elon, 3 years from that. And just think about how much Elon has accomplished in his career. And it's not just him as an individual. Let's be clear about that. It's the people he hires, the talent he attracts, the way that he's able to solve problems. And I just think that it's such a gift for us, all of us, not just Americans, not just Republicans or Democrats, left-leaning, right-leaning, climate change enthusiasts or deniers. It doesn't matter whether you're American or not. It's such a gift for us right now to share the planet with this person who is flawed, just like Steve Jobs. You're not going to agree with everything that he says. I'm sure you're going to disagree with a lot of what goes on with the administration. But I just think that he's such a gift to all of us. And let's see, what's an image that I want to come back to? Tesla, going back to the Pearl Street in Boulder. Such a gift for all of us to be able to experience this. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I'm going to come back to the chart and I'm going to open up the chat so I can see it. And I hope this was enjoyable for you guys. And if it was, please make sure you like, please make sure you subscribe. It means a lot. And I don't know. It's been a really tough start to the year. Not because of what's going on in the stock market or because of this downfall in Tesla. I have a very small position and I got low. I'm still in the green, so no problem. But I've been adding. I added today. It's been very frustrating to see people who I felt like were on my side throughout my career in academia, doing research, studying the ocean, family members, friends. I feel like I've lost everybody in my personal life. Because they hate Elon, they hate Tesla, and they dismiss my ideas. And that's something that I need to get better at, leaning more into myself and who I am, embracing the hard truth that I may have Asperger's, and that a lot of the times when people say I'm weird or irrational or frustrated or whatever it is, I think that's just because I might have Asperger's. And I think that people just need to be a little more patient all around. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. And so, I'll catch up on the chart. And Benjamin says, hey, Andy, great to see you again. And so, I do have Blink up here. I don't know if you're still watching, Ben. It's kind of my same thesis. I don't have drawings up here. But, it's like if you believe in the renewable future, if you believe in electric vehicles, it's a gamble whether it's Blink, ChargePoint, or EVgo. These are all charging station companies. It's a gamble. One of them, if not all of them, may go to zero. I think Tesla is pretty sure to not. And, one thing that I did, I started doing is, I don't want to just buy $250 worth of one share, right here. I've been doing fractional shares. I buy 1/10 of a share at a time. And that makes it much more manageable. I'm much more excited to buy, although I have to do market orders rather than limit orders. But yeah, I have no idea if Blink is going to go to 0 or to, 100 a share. Same with ChargePoint, same with EVgo. I have no idea. So I think that those are all risky. And so what I did today, I believe at the start of the day, I had 2,300 shares of ChargePoint. I did sell one covered call, so I effectively had 2,200. I'll get the 100 shares back starting Monday because I think that covered call expired. And let's see, I sold 50 shares today of ChargePoint, lower than it is now, at a loss, a notable loss. But then excuse me, I use that to buy 1/10 of a share of Tesla today, like in the first 30 minutes the market was open, and then buy one share of TSLL. And this might go lower, and that's fine. But I feel like after this big of a, I should do it on Tesla. After this big of a move down, over $200 reduction in share price, I feel like it's more likely to go to the upside. So I'm not about to open up a short position with Tesla right now, especially if Tim Walz, who has no idea what he's talking about, is talking about getting joy out of Tesla going down. So I'm fully on board long, and I don't have a garage, which makes me not want to get an electric vehicle. But with all of this stuff that's going on, I want to get a garage so I can have an electric vehicle. I want to get a Tesla. I want to experience what it's like to have one of those and to support a company, not just by buying stock, but by participating in that. And so, yeah, in my the little town that I live in, there's some charging stations, some ChargePoint charging stations. So that gets me excited. But, all of these, I think EVgo looks a little bit better. But I'm not sure exactly why. I think it's because it's faster charging. But yeah, they're all just risky. And I feel like, I could hold ChargePoint to 0 or until it goes down more. There's going to be a reverse split later this year, I believe, because they got a notice that it's their compliance issue being below $1 a share. And, I've experienced that before. Do I want to just hold as this continues to bleed? I might be marking the bottom if I sold all of my shares here. So that's why I just sold 50. And I'll continue to trim, perhaps daily or perhaps weekly, to trim out of my ChargePoint position and then to use that to buy 1/10 of a share of Tesla and one share of TSLL to swing this one to diamond hand this for retirement, like with Bitcoin. So yeah, hopefully that's kind of helpful perspective on Blink. Sorry I didn't make a video on it. It's tough with the work schedule to have energy to do to make videos, and also it's just been like really like an emotionally and morally draining start to the year. Because, so many things that I'm excited about, it may not be the political party I was previously affiliated with, but, I feel like it's very liberating to not be affiliated with a party and to just listen to people. Like I would very much encourage checking this out. Just the open forum discussion here, 1 hour and 44 minutes. Have I ever taken an interest in the Commerce Secretary in the past? No. This is a great interview. He's just a very colorful guy. Like I said, you may not agree with him, you may not like him, but I think it's just a great, and you also may like him. I think it's just a great, open, transparent government that we have. And so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I'll continue on with the chat. Wag Hana is saying, "Hey Andy, I always learn a lot from you beyond stock trading. You're awesome." Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. Sandy is saying, "Hey Andy, hi Andy. I'm going to watch from the beginning." Cool. Yeah, it's going to be kind of a long one, but yeah, I don't know. It's like one of the things that I feel like taken from this channel, and in full transparency about the channel, I don't know if you guys read it, but just pulling up on the channel profile here, it says the goal of this channel is to go over weekly trading ideas, serving as a personal journal to implement enter and exit strategies based on technical analysis and market sentiment. And so none of this is financial advice and is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Ticker requests are welcome. Primarily, on Sundays, it can be a little draining to get so many. And, I need to be inspired by the videos that I make. And request them in the live chat during streams or, in the comments. If you do request them in the comments, just put some context to them. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of people yelling tickers at me. I get overwhelmed. I got overwhelmed this morning during pre-market prep. But just kind of highlighting what's on here. This is serving as a personal trading journal. I'm learning as I do this. And one thing that I've really taken away from the channel is that the channel, or YouTube in general, the algorithm that pushes content on YouTube is like the same kind of algorithm that trades stocks to take advantage of retailer emotions. And so it's like, if something's pumping, if there's euphoria when Tesla's up here, there are going to be tons of videos about how Tesla's going to 500. It didn't. It stopped at 488.54. And so anybody buying up there expecting it to go to 500, they got left holding the bag at the very tippy top. And so, if a video performs well, it's because something's trending. And if something's trending, no offense to you guys, I fall into the same category. If something's trending, it means the sheep or the herd, that's following the herd. And what we want to do as traders or as investors or as observers is we don't want to be the sheep. And there really are three options of what we should strive to be. One is the sheepdog. That is the animal that herds and corrals the sheep. Another is the wolf that hunts the sheep. And the third, which this is what I want to be. I want to be the shepherd. I want to see what's going on with the sheep. I want to understand what's going on with the sheep. I want to understand. I want to manage what's going on with that sheepdog. And I want to tame and prevent that wolf from taking advantage of me, taking advantage of my flock, or my sheepdog. And so, that's kind of my perception. That's what I've been learning from the channel is when it's so many stocks spread, it's so thin, it gets really hard to focus on the technicals, to hone in on the emotion around the market, and to just consider, I don't have any of my drawings up here, but I didn't always have this stuff up here. But considering the moving averages, the volume, trying to get better at that analysis. The RSI, of course, and MACD down here, just kind of getting a better understanding of that and how it relates to technical analysis, how it relates to sentiment in the market. If everybody hates Tesla right now, including politicians, maybe that's a good time to buy. And so what are some signals in the stocks that tell us that there's a bottom, that tells us there's a top, to buy, to sell, whatnot. And so, I feel like if I'm to be talking about Blink, ChargePoint, and EVgo as EV charging stations, or if I'm to be talking about NIO, which, I'm going to play with this right now, but it's a swing trade. It's a Chinese EV company. So definitely, not pro-America there, or, I don't want to say anything that might upset somebody who thinks that's a bad thing. But just being proud to be American, this goes against that. But really it's just a chart play. Rivian, just kind of thinking about, coming back to this, LiDAR technology, whether it's Luminar or Microvision. These plays, all of these that I just went over, based on that video, about, can you fool a self-driving vehicle? These stocks are all effectively being short Tesla. And I feel like it's the tried and true. You got EV charging stations, you got electric vehicles that happens to be the best selling. I believe the Model Y is the best selling vehicle. So right there, you also have autonomy, you have AI, all of the tech behind that. Moving into, humanoid robots, C-3PO, pretty cool stuff with Optimus. And I just think that there's so much potential with Tesla still. I don't understand how you could not be long this company, be long this stock. And so I'm going to try to consolidate my renewable energy portfolio to be centered more around Tesla, but I'll keep it a few others there. I've still got my Neo play, which I may lose some money on with it, but I feel like, this big red candle down, spinning top there, doji with the big wick to the upside and downside, being caught by that 50-day moving average there in yellow. This could be an abandoned baby. Maybe we gap up next week and start to go higher. Maybe we get some news about Chinese stimulus over the weekend. Who knows? Who knows? No idea. And we see a gap up and a big reversal candle there. That's an abandoned baby, and that looks bullish AF. And the options data on NEO looked really good. So I feel really good about this, but I feel like I've been too risky with contracts. I'm, learning, and some of that learning is going to cost me, and that's fine. But yeah, that's what this channel is about learning. And Ticker Request Live is such a great way for us to share ideas and also just exploring stuff on X, watching other YouTubers to get ideas. Other people are going to have different approaches than me. And so I don't know. I'm very compelled by Tesla right now. And it's you don't want to trade based on your emotions, but I feel like so many people have been emotional that it's triggered me to be emotional. So it's like two emotions cancel each other out. I don't know. So I have so much belief in this company, and I have so much belief in the future of not only this company, the US, the world, mankind. I feel like I'm an inherent optimist or eternal optimist. I think I meant to mention this at the beginning, but I forgot to. There are two types of people, which I disagree with. There are two types of people, glass half full and glass half empty. And I disagree with that. I personally view myself as I am and it's only half empty kind of person. It's only half empty, So, I look at a bad situation and I see opportunity. And that's what we have right here with Tesla. And talking about it long term, there might be some turmoil. I think that this could come down to around 165. This could be a bear flag. But I also think that we'll be revisiting, the 400s, and I have so much belief in it, passionate belief. So yeah. And let's see, continuing on. Saul saying another day trader. Happy Friday. Hope you all had a good trading week. Yeah, and to everybody here, hopefully you guys had a great trading week. And just to kind of follow up with Saul, I know that you're a ChargePoint shareholder, I believe. And I have to say I'm not necessarily short ChargePoint, but I did mention that I'm starting to trim my ChargePoint position if in case this does go lower. I do think that this could squeeze up to 1, but I don't think it'll hold. But in the time between now and then, where's Tesla stock going to be? And so rather than, exiting my ChargePoint position here, I think that could be calling the bottom. It's I sold at the bottom type of scenario. I just trimmed a little bit. I sold 50 shares so I could buy 1/10 of a share of Tesla today and 1 share of TSLL. Just thinking that Tesla is a little bit more of a guarantee than, the other ones. But I've gone over that extensively. But, yeah. Let's see, continuing on with WAG. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, if it's Waghana or Waghana. Everything you're saying is 100% truth. Glad you appreciate that. And also, some of the things that I say, If you disagree with me, if you think that I'm incorrect about something, put it in the chat. Make sure that you hold me accountable. And that's kind of the tough thing about making videos like this, discussing stuff rather than just going over the chart where, I might be 50-50, trying to be more on the correct side than the wrong side. But some of the opinions that I have may be completely false. And also, unfortunately, politics comes into this stuff. And we're all going to have different perspectives. And I've said this, I feel like from, I don't know if the beginning of the election cycle, but I think, when Trump was running and, seeing a lot of people being vocal about him on X and just knowing that tons of you guys have been long-term supporters of him. It doesn't matter who you voted for. It doesn't matter who you want to be in office. We got to deal with the administration that we have now. And I think that there are tons of things that they are doing are disruptive and groundbreaking that are going to change the government for the better. Hard truths that we need to deal with, like the debt, like the deficit. I think there are a lot of good ideas around that. I try to share those videos. And, and that's coming from a perspective of, like I said, I'm not really on either side of the aisle. I'm just trying to, figure out how this stuff works, the charts and how to make a living in this country. And to me, it doesn't matter who's in office. It just matters, that I understand what they're doing. But I feel like I have so much hope for this administration, the Trump 2.0 administration. There are just so many, I feel like, brilliant people that are in his cabinet administration that previously would not have been a part of an administration. And I think that there's reason for that because of private interests. And I think that if successful businessmen are taking breaks from their companies to try and run the U.S. like a successful business, I think that's a good thing. And so I'm really excited to see what happens over the 4 years, which, I'm not going to agree with all of it. So far, I definitely don't agree with all of it, but that doesn't mean we can't be hopeful for our country. And I definitely am. I think it's good that we all are. And so how can I send, Wag Hannah, you can send me a DM on X. And so my handle is up at the top there, dgen_Ann, or you could just do it publicly and stuff. Yeah, so if you actually, I don't really do too much with DMs on X, but if you let me know in the chat what your handle is here, I can then follow you, and then I think we can exchange DMs. But I try not to do that just because there are a bunch of like crypto scammers and stuff like that that will target people. Also, a lot of attractive women that will do that, which in my view, they're all men, and they're trying to target vulnerable people or whatever. And so I don't really do too much with DMs, but you can definitely DM me on X. I spend a lot of time on there. And yeah, dgen_Ann, because I'm Andy, but I'm also fine being Ed or dgen Ed. But formally, that is him over there. And also, you guys might find this fun. The little Doge detective. Ooh, I don't have him animated in like I do with Ed, swooping in behind him there. So bring Ed back. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, so you can definitely, should be able to hit me up on X and we can exchange there, but always in the live chat. And also too, I think though, I don't know, I feel like you guys probably can get a sense of my character and stuff from these videos, but I'm not necessarily able to from you guys, the familiar names and stuff from the chat. I definitely get to know you guys there. But yeah, I mean, I think that, just strangers exchanging on the internet, I think it's also good to keep stuff public because, yeah, I mean, then there's no party that's vulnerable there. Yeah, but yeah, definitely. And hey, Ricardo, what's up? Thanks for saying that. Ricardo's saying greetings to one of the best chart man, Andy. I appreciate it. And Benjamin was asking for a follow-up on FLNC. So yeah, I'll definitely do that for you. FLNC. And so this is an energy company. And so I'm just going to check out their profile. Is a global provider of energy storage products. So yeah, this I feel like would fall into the same realm of the other, renewable energy or EV stocks that I had mentioned in this, is that, you know, this company may very well be a competitor to, like the Tesla Powerwall and whatever other companies are doing this, but it's also possible that they could go down, to zero. Also have AI and stuff in there. And so I think that, any of the companies in this sector, I feel like it's a bit of a gamble. I feel like Tesla is a little bit of a safer bet. So I would kind of discourage branching out too much. But if we do consider some things about this, let's just look at Tesla and compare for like market cap. This is about 800 billion, nearly. I'm not sure if it was up here. I believe it was more than $1 trillion company. So just like a very different kind of, landscape between these two companies. So this one is definitely going to be more vulnerable. It does have a market cap of nearly $1 billion. But it is also, again, just going to be a little bit more vulnerable. We do have this gap down, which I do believe I had that drawn up there. And so, yeah, it does look like for the week, it got rejected from the 21-day moving average. If I do switch this over to the weekly, what we can see is this is downtrending. So that makes me feel like maybe it could break to the upside. But at the same time, we have this big down move here. And, that as this is going lower, we do see a little bit, let's see if I can shift this over, a little bit of the uptick in volume here, where we have this big tail to the downsides. It's kind of a dragonfly doji, might be suggesting a bottom, uptick in volume. But then the Thursday and Friday following that, we see, this continuation down, new lower close. This is an inside bar, so maybe that's good. And with that being said, volume from yesterday was 19.24 million. Today it was 21.16 million. So that's going up a little bit. So I think that's a little encouraging. Or sorry, not days. These are weeks. So if I do look at this on the daily, we can see that, from the bottom here, we did see a bigger candle here. So big down move here. Volume traded on the 3rd of 8.1 million shares traded, and then 8.4 million. So slightly more shares traded the following day on a green day. So that's good. But it was like with a gap down, opening here, going lower, and then closing up here. So it was really not that significant. And then just like this consolidation, let's see, higher volume relative to these other candles on the 7th when we're kind of putting in a top. But it was a lower volume than over here. And then so on this day, on the 7th, 6.64 million shares traded. Over here, 5.1 million shares traded. And that's lower high, so it's a lower low in volume. But, what we do see is higher highs in the RSI, whereas we actually see a lower high in the stock price here. I don't know if I have that mapped out up there. Don't have it drawn up there. But this is the lower high. And so that's hidden bearish divergence. And so, yeah, I would just be very cautious with this. I think it's very speculative. And I think there's quite the possibility this could follow the path of Fisker over time and just slowly bleed into nothing. And, so I'm a little bit concerned about that with ChargePoint. And like, do I just want to hold this forever? Maybe it goes back up to my average and I could get out at break even or make some profit, but maybe it fades lower. And in that time, it's just opportunity cost. And so while Tesla's down, I'm just going to be rolling some of these funds into that, but very slowly, nothing too crazy. But yeah, so I would be cautious with Fluence, especially with this massive gap down. So good to consider that. And then so Saul is saying, yeah, still holding a ton of shares of ChargePoint there. So yeah, you got about 20 times. Oops, I shook the desk. About almost 20 times as many shares as I have. And yeah, I don't know. It's like, I think that, especially with kind of exploring options and like getting a feel for that, I think kind of like the way that I want to approach the markets moving forward, definitely, doing videos and sharing ideas and stuff like that, but probably not participating in much where, like with crypto, I'm daily accumulations of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Doge. Bitcoin I consider as retirement fund, so not touching that, which I feel like is very similar to how I'm viewing Tesla. Whereas similar to crypto, like the ones that I want to trade, that would be like TSLL, or if I think it's going lower, a TSLQ. This is 2x leveraged short. TSLL is 2x leveraged long. And then I could trade these. So these would be more like my Ethereums or my Dogecoin. And then also, like NEO, that is a play. And that would be more like, an Ethereum or a Doge. And so with ChargePoint, I don't know. I'll still cover it and stuff, and always happy to go over it, whether that's during Ticker Request Live or periodically. But just for myself and my risk management, I'm done buying. Although it might not go back to 55, 56 cents a share. It might be just, it is forming higher lows here, so that's good. But maybe it continues to roll over. Maybe there's some volatility around it getting back to $1 and then it goes back under. And I guess I should note that, with my share size, which is now 22 and a half, so let's see, 2,250 shares. My average, I think, is around $1.66. And I kind of view that there is the possibility. I don't know the future. It's not certain. There's the possibility that this goes to zero, like Fisker. And so, but there's also the possibility that this goes back up to, 7 or 8 or, who knows where, what are some levels that I have marked to the upside? I got these blue lines up here, 470 or $7, gaps that I think need to be filled still. And then I guess kind of, how I have this mapped out here. It's not following this is kind of my hopeful line up there, but I just view that considering that they got the non-compliance notice from the New York Stock Exchange for being below $1 a share for whatever certain amount of time, they got a non-compliance notice. They need to get their share price to back above $1. And so that if that does not happen, and we're not seeing monthly closes above $1, because I believe it's, daily, but also monthly is a factor to it as well. So I think it's like the clock resets when it closes above $1, but then it gets set back if it closes a month below $1, something like that. And so, this was my hopeful doodle that it'd go up to $1. But the reality is they might have to force it up to $1 by a reverse split. And so I just view that if it doesn't go up to $1, or if it does go up to $1, it's probably going to have a hard time holding it. And I imagine approximately by June, they would have to have a vote or an announcement. Let's see, next earnings looks like it's going to be between May 26th and May 30th. So right around there might have to be an announcement or a vote on whether or not there is a reverse split, or to what degree there is a reverse split. And so I imagine that vote will happen by June, and that it will have to be implemented by August. And so I have August 19 marked because I think that follows 6 months after their non-compliance notice. And so from what I've seen, we could see this with Luminar. Let's see, they have the reverse split over here, which is a 1 for 15. And what happened to the stock price at that time during that reverse split day? The low for the day was $6.80. So we are now, sorry. The low for the day, the low was, I was reading today's low, I believe. Yep, I was reading today's low. The low over here for that reverse split day was $9.51. So we're still not back up there. And it's been, 124 days, 124 calendar days. And, to getting to those lows, that was a reduction of about 60% of the value. Now it's currently down just about 23% of the value. And so, if there's going to be a reverse split, I suspect the downside will follow. Oops. And so, I don't know. I'm putting a pause on my ChargePoint buying. I may not buy again. And I want to wait for, really good data, whether that's from options, the chart, something that just really changes with it fundamentally, very clear change, momentum change. And so I'm not going to be buying again. I'll just be shrinking my position gradually until I see something like that happening, because I view it as, getting from, the middle of March to the middle of August. That's like 5 more months. That's opportunity cost. And so while I'm going to be cutting, if my average is around 166, I'm losing about, $1 per share. If I lost $50 today, I realized $50 loss. It sucks. But, I'm going to do that gradually. And I'm going to do that with the direct intention of rolling that money into Tesla and TSLL. So that's just something that I've kind of, had to come to terms with. And like the story that I told in the video or the earlier in the stream about my experience with Tesla. I just have so much belief in it. I'm so inspired by the company and by Elon, even though I don't agree with everything that he or the company does. That's fine. And so Benjamin and Saul are kind of exchanging about the price of ChargePoint. And so one thing, let's see, Saul is saying, let's see, because I don't know how much of this he wants me to be talking about, but I'll just say, $2. I think it's a very reasonable average. Mine's 166, not much lower than that. And yeah, let's see. I've probably got it marked up here. Yeah, gap up to 169. It's like the saying, there's nothing more bearish than a failed bullish move. I thought that this was looking like, kind of an ugly, but, an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And there's nothing more bearish than a failed bullish move. And with that, Colin Gladman, I learn a lot from him. I'd encourage you, subscribe to him, follow him on X. One of the things that he's talked about that really stands out to me, and I need to get better at interpreting volume. It's definitely not one of my strengths, but I'm trying to get better at it, is one thing that when you're looking at whether it's a head and shoulders or an inverse head and shoulders pattern, so let's say this is the left armpit of an inverse head and shoulders, this is the head, and then we got this kind of ugly right shoulder there. This came down to a higher low than over here, so this is still, a valid inverse head and shoulders pattern in my understanding, in my view. But what you want to see is on the first valley or peak, whatever it is, you want to see volume increase a little bit there. And then on the next run up, you want to see volume increase a little bit more. And then on the move up here, you want to see that volume really pick up. So you're progressively getting, a little bit of volume increase here, a lot of volume increase here, and then an insane amount of volume increase here. That's sustained, and we didn't see that here. And so that is kind of, I guess, it wasn't clear to me at the time, but kind of a giveaway that this was a failed pattern. And now just going lower. So, I think that there's still a possibility that it could go to 2. I think that there's definitely still a possibility that it could go to 1. I think that there's a likelihood that it will go to 1 between now and August, prior to any reverse split or anything like that. Just short squeeze, gamma squeeze, or ramp, whatever. I think that there's still a possibility it could go up to around 1. As far as getting to 2 or like 166 or whatever, I'm not sure. But I think that a good maybe strategy to have, and this is also coming from, the standpoint of, I think that I posted the interview from, let's see. So I did recently do the Lutnick one. I also did from Scott Bessent. He's not, as colorful of a speaker as Howard Lutnick, but he is a very intelligent guy, very smart guy, and It seems like what the Trump administration is trying to do is they're basically trying to manufacture a controlled recession to kind of reset the balance so things can start to go higher. And if that resetting of the balance fails and it just triggers a recession, or maybe the heat that we're taking, maybe the beat that we're getting, the beat down that we're taking. Let's look at the SPY here. Let's see. This, I'm going to remove my drawings. This drawdown that we're seeing, maybe this is just a bear market rally and we're going to continue lower. What stocks are going to survive that? I don't know. I think Tesla will. Will any of the others basically on this list? I don't know. It's not a certainty. And so that's why, rather than being like, oh, I'm just going to sell all of my ChargePoint and then roll it all into Tesla because, ChargePoint could go up and Tesla could still go down. Or they both could go down or they both could go up. I don't know. And so that's kind of why, I've been wanting to I'll just sell 50 shares and then I can buy 1/10 of a share here and one of TSLL. And so it's kind of like still being long in the EV charging space, but kind of pivoting in a way that I think it's there's more than likely a guarantee versus, with any of these other ones, there's no guarantee. And so that's maybe something I have no idea. And this could be, me starting to trim. That could be a bottom indicator, in all honesty. That very well could be. I've sold the bottom before with Palantir. I'm sad about that. But it's a good lesson learned there. And that's partly why, I just wanted to trim a little bit of ChargePoint, not just sell it all. But I mean, maybe that's something to consider is that, well, one could sell a very small portion to then move that into something else to just kind of hedge. And maybe it's hedging in the same direction, like ChargePoint and Tesla. I would think that they would both be going up if there's good news in the EV space and the charging space, that they would both go up. But it's kind of hedging in the sense that Tesla's less risky. And also, too, another thing that, kind of has just put me off with ChargePoint, with it trading below $1 now, I used to sell covered calls to make a little bit of money with it. So this is the 21st, so these are expired. But so, for next week, March 28th, I like to do weekly covered calls. I did that with Luminar and I made some money. I rolled it into next week, made a little bit more money because I would have had to sell my shares at 8 for Luminar. Because covered calls are risky, but I was on it. I was aware of it right before close. And I rolled them. And that's something that I'm kind of new to doing. And that is effectively, let's say ChargePoint is below $1 a share, above 50 cents a share, and I had sold a covered call. I don't want to sell my shares at 50 cents, so I'll roll it into next week by selling this contract, which would, nobody's buying it because it expired worthless. But then, selling it, if the market's still open, sell it for, I get $1 back, let's say, and then I'd roll it into the next week, 50 cents here, for 12, get $12. And so we make a little bit of money on that. And actually, yeah, I mean, that's maybe not such a bad idea to sell in the money covered calls and then just roll them. If they're going to close in the money. I don't know. That's something I need to think more about. But just in thinking about that with Luminar, and so, looking at calls here, $8. I sold one of these contracts. I don't know how well you guys can see it. But I sold one of these $8 strike covered calls that expired today for 2 cent premium. So I got $2 per that one contract. And we closed today above 8. So I would have had to sell my shares at a loss at $8 a share. I didn't want to do that. But what I did during the week is, because I recognized, hey, Luminar looks like it could be squeezing, I had 195 shares. I bought 5 more at like $7.25, I think. Could have gotten them cheaper, but I bought them at $7.25. And Let's see. And sold them at 720 or bought them at 725 so I could sell another covered call. I made $50 with that one. So in total, I made $52 selling 2 Luminar covered calls that expired today in the money since we closed above 8. But I didn't want to sell my shares at 8. So what I did is I rolled them. I think the premium to sell or to buy them was around, I think, like 35 cents or something. I did it right before I started the stream, so I don't know exactly. But I effectively sold them for like 35 cents each. So like, or no, I bought them back, sorry, for I think 35 cents, maybe 50 cents. I'm not really sure. I have to do the math. I haven't done it yet. Oops. And then, so if I then adjust this is not the 21st, we're looking at the 28th, so next Friday, I then rolled those covered calls. So I then, basically bought them back for March 21st expiration for like $35 each. And then I sold them with the strike for next week of $8. And so I basically, now my selling of shares at a strike of $8 has been postponed into next week. And so I can keep doing that over and over and over until it closes below 8. Or I can just buy them back and have my shares. So I've just extended that for a week. And that's a new maneuver I've not done, or at least not been, like, this is the first time I've done it, like I've executed it well, in my view. Still holding the shares, but with a covered call. And the reason why I did that covered call, let's see. I'm just going to pull up Luminar Greeks over here. Just going to refresh this. Max pain for next week is $6. Then it's $6.50. Then it's $7. Then it's $6, $6.50, $7, $6, so on. And so I think that I will eventually be able to let those covered calls expire worthless, and then I'll get my shares back. So I think that's just a super cool thing. And let's see. Oh, okay. And then, sorry, Saul, I missed this. I was going off on tangents from the first comment. Would your average go up if they do a reverse split? So you're talking about charge point. So let's say they do a 1-for-10 reverse split. And so this price that we see up here, 68.54 cents. If it's a 1-for-10, move that decimal place over 1 decimal place. And then and the average price now would then be $6.85.4. And then if your average was, up at 2, your average would then be 20. And so everything in the chart, you would go from, however many shares you have, I'll just use myself as an example, going from 2,200 shares, I would then go to 220 shares. So from 2,200 shares to 220 shares. So my average would go up by 10, but my share price, my average would go up by 10, but my number of shares would go down by 10. And so, yeah, but that would make, in doing that with a stock like ChargePoint, that would make options get more interesting, because now it's just like the strikes go by 50-cent increments. And with it being below $1, it's like, well, it's just going to be either below $1 or above $1. And other than that, it's just not that interesting. Because it's like 50 cents, is like almost 100% swing, in this stock. Whereas, a stock like Tesla, for example, which the contracts for this, too expensive for me to trade. I can't trade Tesla contracts, not yet at least. But like, what was I going to say about, so it's like a 50-cent increment. So let's look at the options table here. 50-cent increments, for a stock that, a 50-cent move in Tesla is nothing. Whereas a 50-cent swing in ChargePoint is everything. So if there is a reverse split and this goes to $6.85, that would be the adjusted price. And then like $2 would go to 20 for an average. That would then make options more interesting. And so that could be a nice way to kind of hedge with covered calls and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I've caught up with all of the chat. So, I mean, hopefully that was helpful. If there's any more chat, any more stuff to discuss, happy to go over it. But yeah, I mean, this has been, I don't know, I've kind of wanted to do a video like this for a while. But yeah, I don't know. I've just needed like all of the like emotional turmoil, I guess, to do it. And yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna pull up my this. I just can't believe that. You know, it's just 225 and dropping. And if you own one, we're not blaming you, but people are. They're vandalizing cars. You can take the dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, you know. That's an American company, and we should be proud, especially as an elected official, as a politician, as a paid public servant, and also, you know, like paying into factors into. I think he's the governor of Minnesota, or you know, something in Minnesota that goes into people's pensions and you know all of that. So yeah, I mean, what tab should I close on? Maybe I should just come back to this one. Yeah, I mean, I'm so inspired by Tesla, and I mean, I'm so like I was born a couple weeks, I think, maybe a week before the Challenger tragedy. And I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I just feel very connected to that story. I was, you know, scientist, a researcher at universities, and then I left to try and do climate or just science communication, climate science education, communication. I felt very connected to Krista McAuliffe from that expedition, and yeah, and then there's also, was it Apollo 3 with the explosion, and the Columbia where re-entry, the space shuttle broke up into pieces, and that was, I believe, in '93. I believe, maybe it was '98. We could look it up, but we could do that another time. And yeah, I mean, that's the heat shield. That's something that I forget what I was watching about SpaceX, but the heat shield is something that's so important, and that's one of the things that the Boeing Starliner had an issue with. And the way that the space shuttle program was implemented, it was good for publicity, but bad for safety. And those tiles on the shuttle deteriorated over time. And then upon re-entry, I thought it burned up. But what happened, I believe, is Columbia disaster. Yeah, I mean, this is just such a sad story. On February 21st, Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated as it re-entered the atmosphere over Texas and Louisiana, killing all 7 astronauts on board. And it was the second space shuttle mission to end in disaster after the loss of Challenger and crew in 1986. And yeah, let's see if we can have a photo of the crew. Yeah, all these people, you know, died. And I had thought it was burnt up upon re-entry because the heat shield, you know, there's all that friction re-entering the atmosphere. But what I believe happened, because it broke up, is that basically the shuttle was compromised to the extent that it got through the atmosphere. It re-entered. But it was so compromised that the shuttle broke up. So it's possible they died from heat, but it's also possible, I'm not sure how they died exactly. But yeah, all these people, great people. And then since I'm on it, you know, I guess I'll just kind of kind of honor these people, just hugely inspirational. I mean, I would have loved to go down this career path. And so let's see, loss of the Challenger. So this one, all sorts of schools were watching it, and it was delayed over the weekend. O-rings, you can see right there. They were compromised because there was some bad weather over the weekend. They were going to do it on, I believe, on a Friday. There's a really nice documentary on Netflix that covers it. I highly recommend that. It's a very emotional watch, though. So basically, they left the shuttle out on the pad over the weekend because they were concerned about weather, but because on launch day, which was, I think, the following Monday, there was frost, and crazy in Florida to see that, and they had to hose everything off. But the O-rings were compromised because they froze, they tightened up because of the cold temperatures. And then when they were thawed out, some of them were compromised, some of them cracked. That, I believe, leaked some coolant or fuel or something. I don't know exactly. I think fuel. And then it combusted. You see it right here. It's like people all around the U.S. were watching this January 28th, 1986. And they see this rocket go up. And then they see this. And these people don't watch rockets get launched all the time. And so they're at first looking at this, and it's like, oh, I didn't expect it to look like that. But then they all slowly start to realize that's not normal. It exploded. And so what happened is, I believe, the capsule that the crew was in did not depressurize. It was intact. And so the crew members, I imagine some of them passed out due to changes in pressure, or actually it didn't pressurize, so I don't know, changes in gravity. They went up. The rocket, the booster exploded. I believe the shuttle, the capsule that they were in, which we can see over here, so this giant, massive, rocket booster, or, I'm not sure the stages, or, because it's so different now, but they were in this. And the reason why it got compromised is the heat shield is on the underbelly of that shuttle. And through multiple launches, they'd reuse these things and land them like planes after it, and it'd orbit the Earth just like the space station does. Just this, plane-looking thing. That is the space shuttle. They'd land it back on Earth, and then they'd put it back, strap it back to the boosters, and they'd send it back up. But because the shuttle is so close to, you got all the flames at the base of, this orange booster and those little side boosters, whatever they are, the second stages, I don't know. Maybe those are the first stages. This is the big, I don't know what the technology or the terms are. But it was just so close to that heat that the underbelly of the shuttle, that heat shield, that's where the heat shield was, got worn down over time. And that's why the the Columbia ended up breaking up. And so there was the Challenger, the Columbia, the Atlantis, and I'm drawing a blank on the fourth space shuttle. But yeah, this was driven by publicity, getting people to watch. And this was ultimately the end of sending astronauts to space from American soil. And that came back to the country because of Elon Musk and because of SpaceX. And there's been I didn't mention this in the earlier part of the video, but, Tesla wasn't invited to the EV summit, which is crazy under the Biden administration. And Trump was there when let's look this up. I'll come back to this, but let's look, let's see, SpaceX Trump first launch people. This was under the Trump administration. And so images. I'm not sure where, but it's the people that I saw them in. let's see, at the Peterson Museum. But yeah, this over here. The sky is not falling. Why Trump may not need the Space Council. I don't know what that's. Oh, yep. So here, this is from the last administration. You can see Pence there with Trump. And Trump urges Musk SpaceX to bring. Okay, yeah. So, but this is from, let's see, American flag. There's one with an American flag with Trump. And maybe I'll just type that in, American flag. Yes, this is from CNN. SpaceX's historic mission. Let's go to their page. Picture SpaceX's historic mission. Robert Benkin and Douglas Hurley. So SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft carrying, don't email me. SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft carrying NASA's astronauts Robert Benkin and Douglas Hurley. They need to change the name there. Come on now. And so let's see. I'm just going to pull up. Yep. So this. Oh, okay. So I guess we got some more photos here. I can just scroll down. See, this was Sunday, August 2nd in 2011. Oh, wait. Let's see. I'm just going to scroll here. Benkin and Hurley. I saw their spacesuits at the Peterson Museum. Pretty cool. I think there were some. Yeah, this is the first astronauts being launched by it at the space station. Yeah, and Mark Kelly, I believe, saying, "Hey, I know where the space station is. I can give Elon directions if he needs to." I mean, it's like. It's such a joke. It's how people get so polarized and all this stuff. Clearly, there's a clear connection there. I think I got too many tabs open. I'm getting a little bit of a rough connection there. Let's see. Yep. So this is some of the launch stuff, and I believe. Yep, Trump speaking there. American flag and that. Elon celebrating. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything more American than that. Hey, ladies. Yeah, so there's just so much support from the prior Trump administration and now the current Trump administration, and there wasn't in the last one, but or in the the Biden administration. Anyways, I just wanted to flip through a couple more of these, some stuff on the O-rings. This was the crew. For my other channel, I did a video on them, and I became really connected to this person, Krista McAuliffe. She was a school teacher. She was not an astronaut. She went through the training program, and she died, on that launch. And, I think that, in the Apollo program, we think about that. I think about it as just like black and white footage, it being all white men, all military. And here we have a civilian, we have a black man, 2 women. She was an engineer, total badass. I believe he was the commander. I'm not sure. This is Onizuka. I believe he's a Hawaiian / Japanese American, Asian American, and and a school teacher who is bringing space into the classroom. And all of these wonderful people died. And after that, after the Columbia space shuttle program ended, and I believe, when did the space shuttle program end? Space shuttle program ended 2011. Crazy. I thought it was 2008. But yeah, that's 2011 was when we stopped sending astronauts to space from U.S. soil. And following that, we relied on Russia for sending our astronauts up, and I believe largely for bringing them back, if not completely dependent on them. And so I think that's just a huge thing. And so, yeah, I don't know that anybody's still here. And I've been going on for 2 hours, and I've definitely had some tangents here at the end. And so I'm just going to bring it back to this. If you are still watching this, whether live or after the fact, thank you so much. I do appreciate you guys being here. And if you do enjoy the content, please make sure you like it. Always share your thoughts, not just tickers, but also your thoughts in the comments down below. And make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope that you guys have a truly wonderful weekend. And I hope that this video makes you feel proud to be an American, no matter who you voted for, no matter where you're coming from. If you're not American, I hope this makes you proud to be around. When we have innovators alive today, like Elon Musk, and that we got to experience innovations driven by the minds of people like Steve Jobs. I feel like there's so much inspiration there. And on the note of, the spectrum that I was talking about earlier, think different. That really spoke to me. And yeah, and so I hope this video was helpful for you guys. But thank you so much for watching.